video I came across by Mr. Adnan Rashid, our old acquaintance, who time and again has avoided facing me and talking with me and discussing with me. And now I realize what he means that we have to, when he says we have to have a debate face to face. So he goes on the street corners and parks under trees, and he encounters layman Shia, and then he brings his arguments, and of course, he cherry picks whatever clip that he likes and puts on the internet. So, and now I realize he's saying, okay, let's do face to face. And I was thinking he wants face to face meeting, like a formal academic meeting, that where you face each other in an academic setting, moderated by someone with proper timekeeping. And of course, that's something doable, but it takes more preparation in terms of logistics and preparing the place. That's something doable, but it's camera crew and more preparation. No, but he means like in a street corner, like in a park, in a park. Camera crew and more talks. No, everybody and just in a park, camera crew and more talks. No, and just in a park, religious topics. And try to convince the audience. Because in that setting, you can never bring up books, you cannot show books, you cannot show documents. And facts in the history of Islam are very dramatic, are very, very shocking to a lot of people. So truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking to realities of their so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking to realities of their so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking to realities of their so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking to realities of their so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking realities of the so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking realities of the so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking realities of the so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking realities of the so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking realities so truths about Abu Bakr, truths about very, very shocking realities of so truths about Abu Bakr, to film him. And he finds these Shia teenagers and tries to discuss Islam with them, and then he can lie whatever lie he wants to, and he can quote whatever he wants to. And there, of course, nobody has books there to show him that he's lying. And of course, those Shia teenagers or film him. And he finds these Shia teenagers and tries to discuss Islam with them, and then he can lie whatever lie he wants to, and he can quote whatever he wants to. And there, of course, nobody has books there to show him that he's lying. And of course, those Shia teenagers or film him. And he finds these Shia teenagers and tries to discuss Islam with them, and then he can lie whatever lie he wants to, and he can quote whatever he wants to. And there, of course, nobody has books there to show him that he's lying. And of course, those Shia teenagers or domination always resort when facing the Shia. Al-Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam with Muawiyah, the son of Hind, the notorious and woman of ill repute of Mecca, of Bani Umayyah, Hind. Inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, there are so many facts, so many things we can discuss about Muawiyah, about Abu Sufyan, about the house of Hind. One of the most important things that you have to understand and you have to remember, and Umaris will never debate Shia, and no Umari will opponents and enemies of Islam, Quran. Chief of Quraysh, as the chief of the pagans of Arabia, by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. All those gods, all pagans, idols of Arabia, by Rasulullah worshipping alayhi wa sallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And all those gods and all pagans, idols of Arabia, by Rasulullah worshipping alayhi wa sallam, had spent her life Arabia, by Rasulullah worship all the gods of the house of Abu Sufyan and the gods of Quraysh. They were broken down and they were rendered asunder by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and Kaaba was cleansed down of them, and they were rendered. This was a asunder by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and Kaaba was cleansed down of them, and they were rendered. This was a asunder by Rasulullah. Those gods, because of which they fought Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for almost 20 years, all of them were shattered. And then the very person, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, at whose swords Muawiyah's brother, Muawiyah's uncle, Muawiyah's grandfather, their heroes, their leaders had been thrown down in their blood on the sands of Arabia. They are coming with honor, with glory, with victory, triumphantly. They are coming to Mecca. So for them, this was a moment of utter humiliation and subjugation, and they vowed to revenge. And of course, always Muawiyah grew up hearing from her mother all the songs that she wrote, all the songs that she sang of how to take revenge from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, all the heroes of Quraysh who had been killed and dispatched to Jahannam by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in the Battle of Uhud. So the fact that Muawiyah and the house of Abu Sufyan did not become Muslim, and they just pretended to be Muslim, this is corroborated by Quran and many ahadith in the Umari books. Now is not the time for me to delve into them and go into depth into that. Now, perhaps another time. And of course, always open the microphones. I always take the calls from you. You can anytime challenge me. Anything that I assert here, you can always ask me for proofs that matter which you mentioned, we do not concur with you. Where is your proof? And I'll show you. I'll be glad to show you my proofs and my arguments. Al-Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam never believed that Muawiyah was a Muslim. Al-Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam always believed that Muawiyah was a murtad. Likewise, always he believed about the same thing he believed about Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, that they had gone out of the bounds of Islam, out of the fold of Islam because of the things they have done. However, why did he hand over government to Muawiyah? So this could be, of course, explained in great detail, and inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala, I'll explain to you briefly here. In the future, we can go into more detail if anybody wants any specific fact, a specific proof for any matter. I'll be glad to share with you. What happened is that people who rose up against Uthman ibn Affan at year 35 Hijri, 36 Hijri, and eventually they killed Uthman. Uthman was killed at his house by Muslims, by Sahaba, by Muhajirin and Al-Ansar. And Muhajirin and Ansar did not defend Uthman. They participated in his assassination. And one of the chief opponents of Uthman and one of the chief instigators against Uthman, who instigated and who encouraged people, as a matter of fact, issued fatwa, religious edicts, that Uthman should be dispatched and liquidated, was Aisha. So these facts are very, very shocking to a lot of people. How could that be? And I'm willing to debate any Umari scholar to show them proofs from Umari books that indeed Aisha was happy to see Uthman being killed, and she encouraged people, and she issued fatwa, and she expressed that she would love Uthman to be killed and to be murdered. So it was Aisha and Talha, Zubair, and chiefs of Muhajirin and Ansar in Medina. They were happy for Uthman to be killed. And when Uthman was killed, Muhajirin and Ansar, they did not even allow Uthman to be buried in the Muslim graveyard. So the family of Uthman, after 3 days, while his corpse was about to rot, because Arabia is a very warm and hot place, his corpse was about to petrify, they took him and they buried him in an area which was originally the graveyard of the Jews, and later on it had become a place of trash, piling trash. They buried him there. All of this is substantiated by Umari books. When Uthman was killed by people of Medina, and people of Medina encouraged it, and people of Medina did not defend Uthman, and people of Medina are Muhajirin and Ansar, and also by lots of delegates from faraway provinces, especially from Egypt and Iraq, because Iraq was, Kufa was a major center, major political and cultural and economical and military center at the time. And when Uthman was killed, people turned to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and they forced him and they begged him to accept bay'ah. So much so that Imam Ali alayhi salam says in Nahjul Balagha that I felt that Hujjah has been made tamam on me. Hujjah made tamam on me. In other words, they left no excuse for me. That I could present no legitimate excuse why I should not take the mantle of leadership, while everybody is begging me that we will obey you, we will defend you, we will be your soldiers, come and lead, and come and reform the affairs of Islam to the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And however, these people who did the bay'ah to Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, after Imam Ali alayhi salam said to them, I'm not going to take your bay'ah because you will breach my bay'ah. These people, the vast majority of them, were not Shia. Although they were called Shia, they were not Shia. Now, words have different meanings in different times. Sometimes words are used in literal senses and their literal meaning, and sometimes they are used as jargon. Shia, as a word in jargon in theology, when we discuss the denominations of Islam, it's applied to those people who believe Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam is Imam after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam bin nas, through a specific appointment and anointment of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That is the meaning of word Shia in istilah, in jargon. However, in Arabic verbiage, literally it means the partisans, the supporters, the followers, those who favor a person. So these people who were at the time, they were called Shi'atu Ali alayhi salam, partisans of Imam Ali alayhi salam. The vast majority thereof, they did not believe Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was appointed by Allah and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rather, they considered that him to be a legitimate Imam because everybody did bay'ah to him. They believed that Abu Bakr was a legitimate Khalifa, Umar was a legitimate Khalifa, Uthman originally was a legitimate Khalifa. Later on, Uthman became a despot, a tyrant, and he betrayed people's trust. And now Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, is the legitimate Imam and the successor of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa. Among the supporters of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, there was a tiny minority who believed that Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was the legitimate Imam, not because people have done bay'ah to him, no, because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on his authority as the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had appointed Imam Ali alayhi salam as the successor, as the leader, as the guide of all Muslims after him. So, but these people were a minority. They were also called Shia, however, they were called Khawasu Shi'ateh, specific, or the closest of his Shia. However, the majority of the people that were with Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, and they were called the supporters of Imam Ali alayhi salam, they did not believe that he was divinely appointed Imam. They were just politically, they considered him a better option than Uthman, and of course than Muawiyah. So then there were wars between Imam Ali alayhi salam and Aisha, between Imam Ali alayhi salam and Muawiyah, and between Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi and Khawarij. At the Battle of Siffin, Muawiyah was almost decimated. His army was almost put to the sword to the last man. They would be decimated fully had they not come to this deception and to this trickery that they raised Quran over their spears. And that's how Muawiyah saved his life and put off the war was delayed for another day. When Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was martyred at year 40 in the month of Ramadan, he was preparing for another battle with Muawiyah. And Muawiyah was also preparing for another battle with Imam Ali alayhi salam. But Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was martyred. And towards the end of his Khilafah, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, a lot of these people who were originally had that bay'ah with him, as he had predicted in the beginning, as he had told all those people who came to him after the murder of Uthman, came to him that please accept our bay'ah. We will be your soldiers. You lead us to death, we will do it for you. We will be your soldiers. You can, whomever you fight, we will fight. Whomever you were at peace, you would be at peace with, we will be at peace with. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam at that time had told him that you are not going to be faithful to this bay'ah and go do bay'ah with someone else. And they said, no, we will do bay'ah with you. Imam Ali many a time had said, you will breach my bay'ah. So what happened towards the end of his Khilafah, a vast majority of these people had abandoned Imam Ali alayhi salam. So towards the end of his Khilafah, Imam Ali alayhi salam's government was very weak militarily. Why? Because all these people had left Imam Ali alayhi salam, because they had expectations from Imam Ali alayhi salam, from Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam would grant them land grants, or he would grant them treasures from the treasury of Muslims. They would favor them over the others, and we did not see that. They saw Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam is treating everybody the same. A Persian slave or an Ethiopian slave would be treated the same as an Arab chief. There's no preferential treatment between them. So they were very much dismayed at the justice of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. At how Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam did not give preferential treatment to the elites, and especially the chiefs of the clans and influential people. So they gradually left Imam Ali alayhi salam. On the other hand, Muawiyah was very much happy to promise these people land grants, to promise them governorship of provinces, and to send them gifts, which were also, of course, not Muawiyah's personal property, but of course it was from the treasury of the Muslims and from the taxations of Muslims. So what happened towards the end? So a lot of people had abandoned him. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, time and again, in his sermons, towards the end of his Khilafah, he was complaining, and he was chastising people of Iraq for not being loyal to their bay'ah, for not supporting the haqq, for not soldiering and not being to fight for their honor against those invaders, those armies of the Syrians who would conduct raids into the Iraqi territories. One of the earliest examples of terrorism in Islamic history is the terror initiated by Muawiyah alayhi al-la'natu wal-hawiyah. There are many books to this regard. Kitab al-Gharat and Kitab al-Tarikh al-Tabari also explains this matter to a certain extent. However, Ansab al-Ashraf by al-Baladhuri, that book goes to great detail that Muawiyah had created small units of army who were riders, and they were fast riders. And what they would do is small groups, so their mobility would be very, very rapid. So they would come and cross the borders into Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam's territories, and that could be in the Arabian Peninsula, that could be in Egypt, or that could be towards the borders in Iraq. And they would just march into a peaceful tribe, an area, a village, where people were living, and they were peaceful, and they would raid that area, and they will kill the men and kill the animals and loot their belongings and burn their homes, and then go and move on and disappear in the desert. So Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam was very upset at this tactic of Muawiyah, that he is conducting these terroristic raids into his territory. And he was chastising his people that why you're not getting up in defending your territories, your frontiers, your borders. Look at you. The enemy is coming to your homes, and they're doing this. At any rate, so Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam, seeing the disloyalty of the people and the weakening of the people, and not a lot of frenzy and excitement in the people of Iraq that they had initially for fighting the army of Muawiyah. At that time, he still was preparing to go to march towards Muawiyah when he was martyred. After his martyrdom, of course, he had appointed Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam as his successor. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam carried on the duties of his father, and he was prepared for this battle to take place. And Muawiyah, on the other hand, was marching with a huge army from Syria towards Iraq. Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam, time and again, he like his father, when he didn't see the excitement and the haqq that he had, the right that he had, right of obedience from the people as Khalifa, as their Imam, that when he is asking them to engage in jihad, they should engage in jihad. And however, they do not bulge, they do not move, they do not accept. So there are many words of him of his chastisement of people of Iraq. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam sent the vanguards of his army towards Muawiyah. And at that time, a lot of the chiefs and generals, they had been bought off by Muawiyah. And there was secret correspondence between Muawiyah and a lot of people in Kufa, chiefs of Kufa, influential people in Kufa, and influential people in the army, that Muawiyah would promise them in secrecy and through secret letters that I will marry one of my daughters to you, and I will make you governor of whichever province you want. Just leave Imam Hassan alayhi salam and join me. And of course, he would send hundreds of thousands of dirham in dinar, and he would say, okay, more will become once you join me. So a lot of these people were bought off. Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam, when he sent the vanguard of his army, the commander of that vanguard, it was a 4,000 unit army, he switched sides. And the Fajr, people were waiting for Salah. He didn't show up. He had gone with 200 of his closest men, and joined Muawiyah. Imam Hassan alayhi salam found out. He appointed another commander. Next day, the other commander switched off. Imam Hassan alayhi salam himself marched on from Kufa, went towards Madain. Muawiyah, on the other hand, had sent messages to people of Kufa, and not to people of Kufa, rather to influential, important people of Kufa, that if you assassinate Imam Hassan alayhi salam, whatever governorship you want, governorship of Egypt, Iraq, wherever you want, I'll give it to you. And also, you will be one of the members of the royal family. I'll marry off one of my daughters to you. So what they did, these people, they tried to assassinate Imam Hassan alayhi salam. So there's all of these issues, not specific to Shia, what I'm narrating to you. These are present in books of history, such as Al-Kamil fi Tarikh, or Al-Tabari, and many other, Futuh al-Buldan, and many other books of Tarikh, books of history. They could be dispersed, but I'm giving you the a fuller picture. So Imam Hassan alayhi salam had found out that there's a plot against him to assassinate him. So he was, whenever he went out to lead prayers, he would put on his body armor. While he was leading prayers, they hit him with an arrow. It did not go through, and he was saved. And he gave a speech. And he said that why are you doing this? If you assassinate, and I know you chiefs, you've been sold off. If you, Muawiyah now is promising to you that he is going to give you these things. He will give you governorships. He will give you, marry off his daughters to you, and he will give you money. However, once he takes over Iraq, if we do not fight him off, he is not going to fulfill any of his promises. He is not going to do those things that he is promising you. And he will treat you in utter humiliation. And you will be beggars for generations. And you will be treated and like animals. He is not going to do that. So people expressed their at that session. They said, "Oh, we are sorry. We apologize. It was a mistake." And then in Madain again, there was another assassination attempt. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was riding his horse. Somebody attacked him with his sword at Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam fought him off and grabbed him. However, he was able to stab Imam alayhi salam at his leg. So that person who tried to assassinate him, he was arrested and he was killed. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was wounded. He was taken to the house of the governor. And also the people looted Imam Hassan alayhi salam. They looted all his property, all his personal belongings, and everything, just because there was a situation. Everybody was leaving the caliph. Everybody was leaving the imam. That was the situation. That was the reality. At that time, the chiefs and the generals of the army wrote to Muawiyah that whenever you want, we will capture Imam Hassan alayhi salam and hand him over to you. And Imam Hassan alayhi salam knew. If you go back a couple of years ago, there was rivers of blood shed between Imam Ali alayhi salam and Muawiyah. The Battle of Siffin was not just like the Battle of Badr. In the Battle of Badr, how many people were killed? 72 from Kuffar. Fewer than that from Muslims, right? Very few people had been killed. However, at the Battle of Siffin, tens of thousands have been murdered from both sides, especially from the Syrian side. Syrian side had been disseminated, the Shami side. Muawiyah's army, only in Laylatul Harir, one of the nights, in the night battle, 40,000 were killed from the Syrian side. So people of Syria their blood was boiling with revenge against the followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam, supporters of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and people of Iraq. It's at this time that Muawiyah is marching with an army from Syria, and this army is coming to avenge. And on the Iraqi side, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, his army is in disarray. People are leaving him left and right. And now there was a conspiracy